Good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin with our first session, we would like everyone to have a look at the screens. As you can see on the screen, we have 3 exits in the hall. In case of an emergency, please exit from the exits shown and assemble outside the hall building. Along with this, we would like you to take note of the following points. We request you to keep your phone on silent mode. We request all of you not to talk loudly when the sessions are on. Eatables are not allowed inside the hall, and smoking is strictly prohibited across the campus. We will begin our first session in the next couple of minutes. Thank you. Welcome, one and all. We're here to discuss and deliberate on engaging customers through the mobile ecosystem. It's a proven fact that today your customer doesn't only use their mobile, but they literally live by it. They're smart and they're open to experiments, which presents us with an opportunity to engage them where they are. To talk about more on this and also on how to convert installs into active users, please join me in welcoming Kanan Rai from Google Play.
Here's what gives us hope. The world knows how to fight this disease.
Here we go. Ready?
Did you hear those words?
Just rendezvousing with this comet is an extraordinary thing. We're going to make discoveries
that no one's imagined yet.
Hello and welcome to Google for Mobile 2015. It's great to have you here, and wow, what a great way to start this track with an inspiring video. And I love it for that reason. It's so inspiring, it's engaging. I noticed all of you had your eyes glued, right? While we're not going to talk about search and search trends here, the reason why I chose to show that video was to drive home a point. It's not enough to have a room full of people. We need to deliver content that is valuable to you, that you enjoy, and that keeps you glued here. So hi, I'm Kanan. I'm part of the Google Play team in India. And we're going to talk about how you can convert users to active, engaged users on your mobile applications. Engagement is really everything, right? And while we talk a little more about what you can do to drive maximum engagement, I want to first begin with getting an understanding of what you expect from this event. Do you have any burning questions that you want us to answer? So anybody has any expectations? Yeah?
Very simple. Like, so basically, how the user continue coming to my game and maybe generate some kind of money from. That's what.
Okay, so game developers would want users to keep playing the games and maximize the revenue. Somebody else? Over here? Okay, any other expectations? Okay, cool. So let's just jump into it. How many apps do you actually have on your phone, apps or games? Any guesses? Let's not have you counting, but 150? Any other guesses? 40, 20. Okay, it varies depending on the kind of device. If your device only allows you 512 MB of space, you can't really have a 100 megapixel game, right? You have to realize that no matter how many apps you have, whether it's 60 or 100 or just 30, a lot of them are pre-installed, right? So a user only has X number of apps that he can actually install onto his device, which are not pre-installed. So if you are a shopping app, you're not competing just with other shopping apps out there, you're competing with every other app, and there are billions of them. Right? Everyone will have Facebook, WhatsApp, Hangouts, Gmail, the list goes on, and the pre-installed. So there are only about 5 or 10 extra apps that he'll actually download and then actually keep on his phone, which he'll use on a day-to-day basis, right? So it's really important that you're delivering content that a person wants to use on an ongoing basis, right? We've seen about 20% of the apps are actually uninstalled before a person actually launches it. They'll download it for some reason, and then they'll uninstall it because it's not driving value. So this is the typical transition. You acquire a user, or they download the application. The objective is to make sure they're engaged with the application, and finally, drive a conversion. And a conversion can mean different things to different people. If you're a shopping guy, you want someone to come and buy apps. Buy goods from your application. If it's a gaming guy, you want them to make in-app purchases or click on the ads and help you make some revenue. If it's a fitness app, you want them to track calories, or if it's a car comparison site, you want them to sort of fill a form, give you information about the kind of car they're looking for, and drive leads, right? So today we're not talking about conversions or acquisitions. We're going to focus on how to get users on your application and ensure you're driving the kind of value that you want to drive so that they stay on your apps. An important metric then becomes 7-day actives and 30-day actives. So don't just feel good about the fact, here I managed 1 million downloads, I managed 100 million downloads. What if your uninstall rate is as high as 80%? That means people think you have a great listing, your app looks fantastic as far as the screenshots goes, but once they download, they're like, this app is crashing all the time, right? Doesn't drive the purpose. So let's not talk about building apps that are dumb destinations, just something that's in my application, but a great companion, something that I want to use on a day-to-day basis and actually adds value to me as a person every day. Especially talking about the trend in India, like I said, the trend is most people are coming on the internet for the first time. They're buying low-end smartphones, which are worth $100 and have very, very limited space. In that limited space, they're going to download an app. They're going to use it. For instance, if I'm planning a trip, I download a travel app, I book flight tickets or a hotel, and then I uninstall it. That's not great. While he used your app, he spent maybe a couple of hours on it, and if he's uninstalling it, it's not really useful to you, right? He might download it again maybe 6 months later when he's planning his next trip. But that's not what we want. We want to be a great companion throughout the way. So here are some tips on what are the different innovative things you can do to drive engagement on your application. So quickly touching on 3 things, which I think Dushyant will go in more detail later. App indexing is a great way to ensure a user finds your app or the content in your app when he needs it the most. For instance, if I'm looking to go from here to Yashwantpur, I need a cab. I have your app installed, but I forget about it. I have 100 apps on my phone. I can't possibly keep track of everything. So I go to Google search and I say, need a cab from here to Yashwantpur. If you have app indexing enabled, your app will automatically show up in the search results. And then once I click on it, I get redirected to your app, which is installed on my phone. Great case of engagement, right? The other case is suppose I don't have your app installed. If it's app indexed, I can click on it, it'll prompt me to install it. The second is voice actions. People who are using smartphones for the first time are not necessarily very savvy. They don't want to type in the whole thing of, I want a cab from here and so on, right? I can just use the voice action and say, hey, I need a cab, and it'll auto-populate, your app content, which is very relevant to me. And finally, Now API. So I've given an example of Lake Tahoe. So Lake Tahoe is a great vacation spot very close to San Francisco. So I'd plan a weekend trip. Hey, let me and my friends drive down to Lake Tahoe. Because it's a last-minute plan, I didn't have the time to book a hotel necessarily. So Google now realizes that I'm on my way. I look up driving directions. And once I actually get there, it sort of prompts me to sort of book accommodation through Airbnb. So Google now is, again, a great way of delivering content at the right place at the right time to the right user. Next, I want to talk about Android intent. So in this case, somebody has asked for directions. So suppose I ask you, hey, where are you? Let's meet up. And the person shares a link with me. And there are different ways of opening the link. I can just click on it. I can copy paste it in a browser. But here what is happening is once the user clicks on it, it'll tell me different ways of opening the app. I can open it through Chrome, but suppose you have a navigation app. It's very relevant for this use case, right? So it can show up as an intent. Hey, do you want to open it with a navigation app? If I choose that option, it'll take me directly to your application. Next is widgets. Did you know that only 60% of people actually launch an app by actually clicking on the icon? There are many, many different ways that you can direct a person to your application. One was app indexing. Another way is widgets. So this is a great example of a note application where I've taken a note of, hey, I want to go shopping today, and tomorrow I need to go for some swimming lessons, right? So the widget can be can sort of be placed on the home page initiated by user action, and it's a way I'll engage with it every single day. Identity. Personalization is key. It's a great way to get user information and tell them, this is what you need right now, and I'm here to provide it. Sign in, there are different ways of doing it, and Guardian did it in an excellent way. It's a news application, and instead of prompting a user to sign in right at the onset, so once a user downloads an app, you don't necessarily want to sign in then. I don't know what your app is about. I don't know if I want to give my personal information. Should I give you a username and password just yet? Maybe not, right? So what Guardian did was, it allowed users to browse the information, consume news content, but when I initiated an action like share, like suppose I found this article really interesting, and I thought my friends will like it, and I want to share it. Once I clicked the share button, then it prompted me to sign in, which makes a world of sense, because I know why I need to sign in, I know how they're going to use the information, and it just fits perfectly. I'm sure a lot of you have faced this. So many applications, so many email IDs, so many passwords. It's impossible to keep track of what's going on. So we've introduced something called Smart Lock. Smart Lock is a really cool feature which allows you to sort of save your password with Chrome. So if you've used Chrome in the past, I'm sure you've seen that pop-up. It says, do you want to save your password? So if you're logged into Chrome and you choose to save your password, it automatically saves it. And in the left screenshot, you can say, it'll say that, hey, you sign in through Smart Log. It does not require the user to log in yet again if it's saved on Chrome. If it isn't, it'll prompt you to enter the information, say, hey, do you want to save it? And if they choose to save it, that's it. They don't have to enter it ever again. Notifications, a very, very powerful tool, but you need to use it right. We've seen notifications are a key reason for uninstall. And while they're very, very valuable, we have to make sure we're using it in the right place only when necessary. So what are the main use cases for using notifications? When it's time sensitive, right? When you need to get the information to the user and he really needs it. Second is when it involves another person. A great use case is communication. If my friend wants to message me, I want to read the notification then and there, right? Think of it as a user. So if it involves a second person who I know who's part of my contact list, it's a great example. And finally, when it's relevant to my context. If I'm out shopping and you're sending me an offer, a discount coupon, it's very relevant, I will probably consume it. But let's take another case where I'm not a sports fan, I don't care if the World Cup is going on, and if you send me an update every time there's a wicket or every time someone hits a four, I am definitely going to uninstall your application. So you should allow the user to opt in or opt out of certain kind of notifications. If you have a news app, I don't want to hear about sports, but I definitely want to hear about entertainment or politics or whatever interests me. So let the user choose what kind of notifications he wants and what he doesn't want. There are also some, so this is a case study of Trulia. Let's hear about what they did with notifications.
Trulia's mission is to make it as easy as possible for you to find the home of your dreams. Trulia partners with MLSs all across the United States to bring in an immense amount of data for available properties.
Trulia's goal really is to help you along in your home search journey.
Trulia has had a tremendous run so far. We actually see more than half of our business now being done on mobile applications. So when we think about products in the future, when we think about how can we be serving our users who are now really engaging on mobile apps more than anything else, everything we do is very much mobile centric. Android provides a lot of flexibility for us to embed new and creative features for our users.
Android enabled us to create a much more stable app and also to be able to iterate a lot quicker. Innovation is core to Trulia's culture, and we love that innovation is core to Google's culture as well.
Every quarter we have a week designated for engineering product design to really focus on what they feel is important. We've seen our push notification system, we've seen our mobile apps, we've seen a lot of the products that you see live today on the site come out of our innovation weeks.
So after flipping the switch on push notifications on Android, we saw an immediate impact. And after learning and iterating, we saw a 30% increase in engagement. And engagement on Android is 2 times that of our other platforms. At first, we saw a number of complaints come through when we were sending too many notifications. So we quickly iterated and realized that there is this sweet spot for the number of notifications you should send to your users a day.
We recently launched Nearby Home Alerts. It actually uses a geofencing technology that Google's empowered us with.
Say you're walking your dog and you walk near a new listing, you'll get an alert. You can actually get the alert on your watch, see high-level details about the property, scroll through a few pictures, and call the agent or email the agent directly from the watch. Developing for Android Wear was super easy. It took one engineer a couple of weeks to have our app live in Google Play. We see more leads coming from our Android platform than any other platform. We've been able to partner with Google on these new products and new platforms and deliver value for both companies.
So that's a great case study of how they used notifications. Another important thing to remember is to adapt to different platforms. So Music Smash did something interesting where they picked up each of these elements and they optimized for intents, notifications, and adopted to different form factors. And as a result, they saw a 200% increase in engagement, which translates to time spent on their application. Another thing is we spoke in the morning about testing. We have a world of tools from Cloud Test Lab, beta testing, open beta, closed beta, alpha beta, stage rollouts, right? There's so many things you can do. But it doesn't really matter unless you're incorporating the feedback you're getting. If you have testers and these are real users giving you feedback, saying, hey, your app is crashing, and you're not really incorporating that feedback, you might just lose that user. So suppose I have been using your app for a month, and I think it's great, but suddenly you launched an update and it's just crashing all the time. There's so many bugs in it. and I decide to give you feedback. I go to the I go to the ratings and I say, guys, I like your app, but it's just crashing too much. And you just ignore my feedback. I'm going to give up and I might just uninstall it. Whereas if you just take a minute to come and respond saying, we know this is an issue, it'll be fixed in the next 2 days. I get reassured. I know my feedback is really valued. So it's important to sort of communicate with your users and take that feedback into account and respond to these reviews. Material design. Design is crucial to your application. It's really important to have consistent design and make sure you're adapting it to different form factors. I have a great example of Cookbook. It's an app by Riafi Technologies. And why I love that app is because they've adapted it to different form factors in a beautiful way. Look at the app. You can recognize the brand, the use of colors, the images, right from Android Wear phones, tablets to Android TV. And this is an Indian app. It's not a fancy American app. So it's an amazing example of how you can use material design. So there are 4 key principles to keep in mind when you're designing for material, right from surfaces to motion to bold and beautiful aesthetic, and finally design. I also want to talk about a myth of material design. Most people feel it's black and white. Either your app is material or it's not. It really isn't that simple. There are different things, different elements of material, like motion, right? Or just tangible surfaces. You need to pick up elements that are most relevant to your app and try and use it. For instance, we have an example of motion, where look at how beautifully the app moves, right? It gives you a great feeling of speed, especially in a country like India, where half the time you're on 2G, network is flaky. Even if you're offline, this is how beautifully the app moves. And it gives you a sense of speed. It gives you a sense of quality, which is why material design is really, really great. We have over 200,000 apps which are using material design, and they're using it because they've seen relative uplift in both engagement, ratings, and user feedback after implementing material. So it's important to express your brand through material. Another feedback I've heard is, hey, all the apps look the same. Why should I put my brand down and just use the same colors? But that's not what it is. Pick the colors that express your brand or bring out your brand even more. There is flexibility in terms of UI patterns. Delight your users because, just to cite an example, usually we have the navigation drawer in the top left-hand side. If you choose to put it on the bottom right, for instance, it sort of disorients the user because most Android applications have it on the top left. People are used to finding it there. If you put it in another spot, it's just confusing, right? So let's try and keep that consistency, and let's build apps that actually express or build out your brand even more. Another case study of Trello. So what Trello essentially does is allows you to manage different projects, be it personal or professional, on a single platform. After integrating material design, they saw a 10% increase in sessions, 24% more boards created, and by boards they mean projects, and 63% people added to boards per session, which is a great increase, and this is just because they incorporated material design. Android Wear, we saw a case study on this as well. It's relatively simple to build for, and especially for notifications, it's a great use case. We're seeing more and more people pick up Android watches, and it'll be great to see you developers also build for both Android Wear as well as Android TV. I'm sure you've seen the great campaign Sony is doing around Android TV. It was recently launched in India. It's all over print, it's all over television. So now's the time where you start to innovate. Think about how can you use the engagement metrics from TV, because even as regular users, you probably spend more time in front of the TV than you do in front of any other device, simply because it's really engaging. And it doesn't matter what kind of app you're building, what kind of content you're delivering, you can adapt to TV in any case. In the US, for instance, we've seen a good uptake for shopping in the living room. Right? People spend hours browsing through apps just on their TV. Myntra went app only, right? And maybe they can adapt to Android TV. That's an interesting use case, right? So think about how you can adapt your technology or your product to the TV as well. So talking about what is coming up, what are the new exciting announcements? So with Marshmallow, we're changing the way permissions work, usually we see users very apprehensive about allowing too many permissions right at the onset, right? They're like, why do you want information about what's in my gallery? Why should I allow you access to my contacts? They don't know how you're going to use it. With the new permissions update, you will only ask for permission when it's really relevant. So suppose I'm using your communication app to make a call, only then do you need to access my contacts. If I take a screenshot and save it, only then do you really need to ask the user permission to access their galleries. So it's by case, only when it's really relevant will you ask information, and it sort of satisfies the user concerns about privacy. App standby and door. So this is also really important, especially when users have concern about battery consumption, data consumption. With the standby, it sort of defers syncs and data usage when the app is not actively being used, if it's just running in the background. Whereas for doors, if the phone is not being used at all, if it's stationary, it sort of defers all syncs, saving both data consumption and battery consumption. And finally, preparing for the next billion users. How many of you have your primary audience in India? A lot of you. So when you're building for a market like India, users are very, very sensitive to a number of factors, right? From battery consumption, data consumption, storage space, right? So there are 3 C's you need to keep in mind: connectivity, compatibility with low-end devices, and cost. How much data is it using up? What is the file size? If it's really heavy, not only is it going to eat up too much space on my device, it's also going to eat up a lot of data. I'm going to have to pay extra buck. In fact, we've seen interesting cases where people have compared 2 communication channels running in the background, and they've come back to us and given feedback that when app A is running in the background, it charges 1 rupee less than app B. So that is how sensitive people are. They're actually spending time analyzing data in terms of how much cost is being spent on one app versus the other. So you really have to be careful about the file size, ideally less than 10 MB, right? And you have to run tests to ensure it's not consuming too much battery, too much data, and it's just working well in 2G environments. Does it work offline? So these are important questions to ask yourself, and make sure you're testing on all the right devices. So that's all I had. I hope this session was useful. I'm going to be around in case you have any questions. And thanks for being here.
I have a question. Thanks, Kanan, for the talk. Well, ladies and gentlemen, moving on. Ads are an extremely lucrative engagement point, and if you can engage users through strategic use of ads in applications, we are on track. So let me take you through the world of ads and how we can engage users through them. Now, I would like to call Mr. Praveen Sharma, Director Performance, Google APAC, on stage. And a round of applause, please, as we have Mr. Sharma coming right now on stage.
Wow. Ads, guys, come on. So we see a thinning audience. It's painful to see a thinning audience. Hi, my name is Praveen Sharma. I'm here. In this session, I will talk about acquiring users, engaging them after they've downloaded your app, and finally driving more value for them and for you. It's amazing how the mobile app ecosystem has, it's amazing how the mobile app ecosystem has come this far in the last couple of years. Today, both Google Play and Apple App Store and the Apple iStore have about 1.5 million apps each, and continue to run at a fairly frenetic pace. But this proliferation is making it harder for users to discover your app. Consumers today have more choice, are spoiled for choice, and more choice than they can handle for every need of theirs, right? So, which is why I think app promotion makes it very important for your app to stand out and get discovered. We in Google have been working incredibly hard to provide you with the products, tools, and technology to find the right users and then engage with them profitably. You know, over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to cover 4 basic segments. I'm going to talk a little bit about grow your users by driving app installs, re-engage with your users after they've installed your app, gain insights, and finally, automate management of your user base. Let's start with growing your user base by driving app installs. You know, the dominant insight that Google relies on to develop its app install solutions is that as many as 75% of users do research and compare before they actually download an app, right? And even more critically, the research is done across all online channels, be it search, video, display, social, and Play Store. So Google has designed an app install solution which straddles across all its inventory sources. And you know, we have all inventory sources from search to display to Play Store, you know, and video. So let me talk a little bit about each of these. Search is usually a good place to start. You know, as users go to Google search to consume information, it's a great place for you to surface your app and drive search downloads. And because the intent on search is fairly strong, the quality of user search is able to deliver is usually very, very good, and it's also at low cost, right? Now, increasingly, users are also spending a lot of time on apps. About 80% of users' time on mobile internet actually is getting spent on apps, which is why it's also a great way for you to surface your apps when users are spending time on other apps, right? And finally, for users that spend a lot of time on surfing videos, we now have an app install solution for YouTube as well. So we have a TrueView ad format that allows user to look at icons and Play Store ratings in a banner just before the video, just beneath the video player. So if a user clicks on that banner, he's able to download the app while staying in the YouTube app ecosystem, right? So that's great user experience. He's downloading an app, and he's also able to stay in the ecosystem that he desires. You know, I talked a little bit briefly about search. Now, the latest product we have from our stable to drive app installs for you is Search Ads in Play. Now, this product has generated tremendous excitement in the developer community simply because App Store is the most natural place for users to look for apps and download apps, right? And I'm now going to ask my colleague Ankur, who's going to spend just a couple of minutes on doing a super quick demo of how do you drive installs using Google Play and how some of the clients are actually using this product.
And get the camera up. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is a bit scrappy, but hopefully it's effective.
Yeah. So let's start for the first one. Let's look for. I'm on the Play Store. I go to the app section, and let me search for a music app. And as you see, the first result on the top is the ad result for Wink that you can see over there. Now the organic listing is right there at number 5, but Play Ads help them get on the top of the page, and especially when someone is looking for a music app, you're able to surface that. Let's take another example and see. Let's say I want to go shopping, and I want to looking for a shopping app. Similar, this time you have a result from Snapdeal. Again, one ad result, top of the page, helps you drive download when someone is looking for it. Okay, what about if I'm looking for photography? No apps, no ads. So as Perry said, there's a recent new product. There's still a lot of opportunity. So if you've got apps on a particular category, it's a great opportunity to do because not a lot of people are advertising as it just launched.
Yep. Thanks, Ankur. So how many of you are already using Search Ads in Play to drive app installs? 1, 2, I can count. Well, some of you. So clearly, there's a great opportunity. Like I said, it's the most natural way for users to look for ads and downloads apps. And as you saw, a lot of our clients are already using it, but clearly there are some queries which are going unanswered, which means that there is an opportunity there for all of you. An important part of a successful app install solution is the install volumes you can deliver, right? And on this count, the play results have been very, very heartening. I now quote from Director of Marketing of Rhapsody, which is a music streaming app in the US. Based on early results, we're already seeing 9x more installs from Google search ads since we also began promoting our app in Google Play, right? So what this is saying is, if Rhapsody was delivering X number of installs just on Google search, they are now, with the addition of Google Play, with Play and Search, they're able to drive 9x installs. So clearly, he's seen a huge jump in installs. Anecdotally, in India, we are seeing clients drive about 2 to 3 times the number of installs they were driving in the Google suite of app solutions with the launch of Play Ads, right? So clearly, it's a great opportunity. Now, at the center of the app install solution is our quest to find the right user, which brings me to targeting, right? We at Google are providing a range of targeting solutions, and you should try and use as many of them as possible. Let me talk you through some of these. So the first one is search. So basis what people are searching on search and Google Play, we provide insights into what are the right set of keywords that you can use to drive app installs, right? And like I said, the other insight could be around the kind of apps users already have downloaded on their app, on their phone. So if a user is a regular gamer, has downloaded lots of gaming apps, then he's more likely to download another gaming app as opposed to somebody who is not a gamer and has not downloaded any apps, right? And a final insight is a lot of users who have activated a new Android phone are also downloading tons of apps, because when you buy a new phone, you're typically downloading a lot of apps, right? So we can also help you target new smartphone users. So that was about installs. And installs are really only the first step in consumer journey with apps. The key is to continue to re-engage users after install, and that's what I'm going to try and cover in this section. So some statistics that I think Kanan also briefly covered them that make the idea of re-engagement absolutely important and critical for your business is 95% of apps are abandoned within the first month of installation. And as many as 25% of apps that are installed are never used, right? So clearly, the abandonment rate is very high. Let's try and look at some of the reasons why the abandonment rate is very high. So 34% people say that they abandoned the app because they lost interest. 29% people say that they no longer need the app because, I think she also talked about there are some use cases where you use the app, you had a travel schedule, and then you sort of uninstall the app because you have too many apps on your phone. 24% found the app not as useful. So clearly, the marketing behind the app was better than the product, and 18% people found a better or a more useful app. So you'll continue to be, there are multiple apps, like I said earlier, there are multiple apps for the same user need, so people are always going to veer towards a better app. Now, users have come to expect to be taken to the right content when they are searching on the web, right? This is what Google does. We are now trying to replicate that experience, and Kanan also briefly talked about this. We are trying to replicate that experience in apps where we take a user, deep link a user within the content of the app, right, directly. In the example that you have here, a user is searching for movie tickets. And because Book My Show has indexed his app, the user, on clicking on the link, directly goes to the movie page, right? As opposed to going on the home page if he had not indexed that. So this is absolutely great user experience. App indexing is now a ranking signal for Google organic Google search results, and if you index your app, there is a much stronger chance of your app showing in the search results than if it is not. The above example was really for organic results. We are now providing you deep linking solutions for both search and display ads as well. So if you are running search and display campaigns, you can deep link right down to the relevant content within your app when your when your user is looking for content that is relevant for the content of your app. Now, so with that, I covered the first two sections of my presentation. The third one is really about automating management. Now, optimizing app promotion campaigns across different inventory sources can be really very tricky, can be time consuming and resource intensive. Right? So at Google, we're obviously trying to work very hard to provide you products and tools that help you organize and optimize and manage your user base and your data. And the first, and I'm going to talk through three products and tools and features that we've sort of launched in the recent past, in the last 4 to 6 months, which will help you, optimize your campaigns and automate your campaigns. The first one really is universal app campaigns. Now, universal app campaigns is in beta in India right now. It's available, and there'll be a full launch of this product in about 3 to 5 weeks. With the universal app campaign, you can set a single campaign that combines speed and ease of execution. All you need to do is let AdWords know what your app is, what does it do, what is the budget of your campaign, and what is the CPI, which is cost per install and cost per engagement that you're willing to pay. Right? And the product automatically at the back end will create ads and run across the different inventory sources of Google search, display, and video. So and all this will be done within the specified budget and CPIs that you've already given. Another interesting product we've launched is with the understanding that in-app purchasers are prized audience for a lot of developers. Right? In recognition of this, we have now launched this feature that auto-targets high-intent Android in-app purchasers. So you could have a separate campaign where you could raise the bids of the campaign for these users, because there's a greater probability that once they install the app, they'll be also making an in-app purchase. Right? So that's the second product I want to talk about. And the third one last one I want to talk about is called Webcraft. Right? Google has access to lots of users through its Google Display Network, and it makes sense for us to allow developers to use this additional reach. Right? So we've launched this feature with which now you can extend your ad mob campaigns with one single click to the Google Display Network. Right? And because we know that you care about your cost, your promotion cost, the additional volume that you will generate through this product is going to be the same as what you were doing with AdMob. So there is, the CPIs can stay consistent. Most developers, we have seen anecdotally, developers are driving as much as 28% additional installs through this product. And with that, I come to the final section of my presentation, where we talk about using data insights to know your most valuable users. To understand that, really, it's important to understand the context. All of us know app tech is different from web tech, right? In the apps world, we don't have cookies, so you cannot do cookie tracking, you cannot do cookie remarketing and tracking, right? There are no URLs. We talked about how hard it is for us to deep link. A developer has to index his app to get the benefits of deep linking. And then there are different operating systems like iOS and Android with multiple tracking systems and analytics. So therefore, in order for you to navigate this entire complex measurement challenge, we now have a range of measurement solutions, and you should use the one that is most suitable for your needs. The first and the most simple one is codeless tracking. Right? In short, it is the simplest way for you to track Android installs. It is fully automated. You don't need to install any code in your app, and it's able to target all potential ad formats on Google: search, display, and video. The second one is you could also do conversion tracking SDK, in which case you have to install a conversion tracking SDK in your app, and that allows you to then track iOS installs, Android installs, and in-app events and in-app conversions, etc. You could also work with a third-party tracking company, and at Google we are compatible with all major global third-party tracking companies. So you could do that as well, and you can work and track Google campaigns. And finally, you have Google Analytics, which is the best-in-class, most comprehensive in-app analytics product, and it continues to get better, and you'll probably hear more about this in the coming weeks and months. So that was about measurement solutions. Let's now look at example of how you can use data insights to drive different user segments. And I'm going to take a specific gaming example to demonstrate that. Let's consider high-value users who play your game but have not been playing it for the last week or so. Right? And you identify that they're not playing the game simply because they got stuck at level 5. So you build an audience list in Google Analytics and you build an audience list in Google Analytics with all the users who are stuck at level 5 and who have not played the game for the last 1 week. Right? You import this Google Analytics list into AdWords and target an AdWords campaign for these users. You know, the tricky part here is your ad could promote a tip, a clue, or a hint for these specific users for them to be able to complete level 5. So this is how specific your data insights can be to drive greater value for you. With that, I come to the sort of last message in my presentation, which is basically about grow users by driving higher quality app installs using all inventory sources available to you. Just don't stick to 1 or 2 of them. Drive engagement by indexing your app and using deep linking solutions. Automate management using all the automation tools available to you from Google and from other companies. And finally, gain insights by leveraging your user data. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions. I suspect we had sort of found some time because even the last presentation was a little bit short. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Yes.
Okay. The question really is combining the offline world online.
Sorry?
Or combining the offline world to the digital/mobile world. There are companies, point in case my company as well, who have a loyal audience or a loyal segment of people who've been engaging with them offline. But now to deliver the same experience online, the intent from the business end is there, but to get them on board, what is the simplest and the easiest ways to target them? What would you suggest there?
So how are you engaging with them offline?
Through stores, physical stores, and loyalty programs that have been in place for...
Okay. So look, I'll give you a broad response to that, which is not app specific, but which is Google specific. We have products that allow us to track store visits with Google. We don't have those products in India yet, which means that if a user has clicked on a Google ad in the last 24, 48, 7 days, whatever the look back window is, and after that he visits your store, we will be able to tell you that, you know, so many people in your campaign were able to clicked on your campaigns and then finally went on to your stores. But that is not specific to apps, and this product is right now not available in India. But I think we probably have about 2-3 quarters when we should have this product, which will then, you know, bridge the gap between offline and online marketing.
Thanks.
Any other questions? We have time, right?
So basically, for the deep linking and app indexing context, I have a personal finance app called MoneyView. This app is basically with the user data is only there in the app. Basically, we analyze the SMS data and show the user their own data in a different view, like their personal finances in a completely different view of their finances basically. So it is very, very specific to the user. How can deep linking or app indexing help me, you know, leverage those capabilities? I mean, basically for a finance or data intensive app.
Okay. So look, I think what deep linking does is broadly, you know, the solutions that existed in app marketing before deep linking was launched by us or by any other player, is most of your ads were going on to the homepage of the app, right? It opens the homepage of the app. So now this allows you to get deep inside the app, which means it goes to the relevant content in the app. I don't know the model that you're exactly using, so it's very hard for me to say whether or not we will be able to help you with a deep linking solution or not. But fundamentally, if there is value in the user going directly into your app, then of course that can be sorted by deep linking. But this is not about additional data. This is just about the same data being made available to the user because it resides in your app.
Yeah, we are also an app-only. This is also an
That's
app-only
fine.
tool. Yeah.
That's fine. Deep linking is an app-only product. It's not. Yeah.
Perry, this side, on your right-hand side.
On my left.
My name is Dushyant. I'm the next speaker. I can cover more about deep linking and app indexing. Just to short answer, probably let's say in MoneyView, you're basically a personal finance manager. Now let's say if you want to upsell some of the banking products like insurance or like savings account, correct? So those things, could be your ads. And when somebody kind of clicks on it, for example, if I know what is the amount is in my personal portfolio, then you could say that, hey, you can move some of the money to other savings bank account. We are getting higher interest rate or, something kind of that. But happy to chat, after the session.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen
Your
Sharma.
question.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to something that's so organic with the users that it's almost impossible to integrate it in a marketing plan. Yes, I'm talking about search. And to talk more about it, please join me in welcoming on stage Dushyant from Developer Relations, Google India.
Hello, check. Am I audible? Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Google for Mobile. Hope you're having a good time. How was the morning session? Good? Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach about the Engage track altogether. My name is Dushyant. I come from a developer relation group. And at developer relation, what we do is that we help people build product or application or website on our technology platform be successful. Which means that anything to do with APIs, anything to do with SDKs, anything to do with tools or samples, that's our group. But that's not what I'm here to talk about, but if you want to know more about what Google Developers Group do, you could reach out to one of these links. So as I said, what I'm here to talk about is that I take an approach of an entire engagement approach, which is sort of a developer-focused or a product-focused instead of more of a marketing or more of a growth-hacking focused around it. Are we good? Yes? Okay. I have a few questions. If you have an answer, happy to take it. If you don't have it, perfectly fine. Any guess how many applications are available worldwide? Irrespective of Play Store in general. 3 million? Somewhere around? Yeah. So it's around 3 million applications. Now, when you have a 3 million applications, what is the biggest challenge? Discovery, correct? More than discovery, let's say if you kind of break that barrier and get your application installed into a user's phone, the challenge is basically driving that engagement as well, correct? And then there's some stats available on the slide, and Sandeep also talked in the morning that on an average, an Indian smartphone user has a 17 application. I have roughly around 20-25 applications on my phone, but if you ask me how many of those applications I use on daily basis, I would say 5 to 6, correct? Or maybe let's say 7 if you're really, really high on application usage. I assume it would be same with most of you, 7 to 10 bracket. What happens to the rest of the application? It's not that they're not useful, they're useful. It is there on your phone, correct? It's just that we are not aware about it, in what context this application can be used. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. At Google, when we started our vision or our kind of, the one statement which drives us, all of us together is that, we want to organize world's information which is useful and it's kind of seamless. Now, what it means that if you're looking for a taxi, if you're looking to book a taxi, and we feel that it's our job to help you connect the right service provider or right application. Or if you're looking for a food delivery option in your area, we feel that how can we help you find the right food, or whether it's a lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever you're looking for, along with coupons, along with delivery options. So that's what Google is all about. So that's one part of it, and I want to kind of keep in the side the discovery problem that we have with the application in mind. So Google's job is to basically organize the information, correct? Oh, thank you. Now, when we say that we want to organize this information, we want to organize information across our products, whether it's a Maps or a Google search product. For example, if you are looking that, okay, I want to go from Bangalore International Exhibition Center from here to MG Road, and if you search it on Google Maps, it kind of gives you different options. Whether you're looking for a taxi, whether you're looking for let's say, a metro, or you're looking for some other form of transport. It gives you all the information. The reason why it is able to surface those information because it's structured, correct? If you're like me, I usually start my day with some sort of a nice Indian song, and I'm a big fan of Lata Mangeshkar. So at Google, we believe that when you're looking for Lata Mangeshkar, how can we help you find those songs also? I mean, the songs are also hosted on that particular service provider or particular application or property, but how do we basically surface that information? Correct? So if you search for Lata Mangeshkar on Google, you'll also see a bunch of songs which are popular which is sung by Lata Mangeshkar. Or maybe you're looking for a popular show which is very common in this particular part of geography. So I'm still talking about a bunch of things that Google does on search product. We have a lot of data, and then there is an issue of a discovery. Now, how do we solve it? All the speakers who were before me, they spoke about these three things: app indexing. Some of them did talk about Google Now, and voice actions. And I'm going to dive a little bit deep into it, that how you can use to A, drive acquisition, and B, bring back user back to your application. How many of you know about app indexing? Quick. Okay, and how many of you have implemented app indexing in your product or in your application? Okay, is it simple, straightforward? Not that difficult, okay. Okay. It's not that difficult. So what are some of the common challenges, let's say if I would ask you, when you do app indexing? Yes.
And that is how finally we are there.
Yeah, so the challenge with app indexing is that, it kind of takes time to figure out, whether it's working right or wrong.
There were so many problems. Like one common problem was there was pop-up always coming up, should I open? And it was like on a call button. We never implemented in that space.
Yes.
But it did happen. So there are problems, but it's not that difficult.
Correct, so this is more of an implementation level problem. But do you see any other issues when it comes to, let's say from your feature point of view, from your logic point of view, that I expected app indexing to behave in this way, but in my case it behaved a little differently? I see some hands.
Yeah, first click free required us to change the way the app functioned.
Fantastic, I was hoping that. Thank you. So app indexing, the way it works is that, if you look at app indexing is nothing but a hyperlinks for your content which is in your application. In pretty simple word, it enables user kind of discover the content which is there in your application. Now, how do we do that? Because if it's a website world, it's very easy to give hyperlinks. But in an application, how do you give links around it? So deep linking basically enables that. And in order for Google to crawl the content in your application, correct, you need to remove any roadblocks, which kind of stops Google crawler to crawl your content. So we have a policy called first click free policy, which means that whenever you enable deep linking, whenever you submit your app links to Google, Google will try to crawl your content. And if it is not accessible on the very first try, it'll kind of throw up an error on your webmaster tool. Correct? So app indexing, basically, in a nutshell, what happens is that when you search something, let's say if I order a lot of food from Zomato, and if I'm looking for, let's say, a food delivery from Zomato, hypothetically, let's assume Samarkand is a wonderful restaurant, and I want to order food from Samarkand. I go there and I search for Samarkand dinner options. And if there is an app index, it basically shows up this contact on my search result. If I have application installed, correct, it will directly take me from that link to my application, that content page. Correct? So that's what app indexing does. What happens if app is not installed? Takes you to Play Store. How does Google figures out that? It's again through app links. So when you submit an app link to Google, correct, Google has information in terms of what is installed and what applications you are installed using this login and a bunch of other details. It kind of says that you want to access this information, but the information is not available on your device. Do you want to install an application? It kind of gives you that install button. And when you click on that install button, it takes you to Google Play Store page. You can install a page, you can install an application, and then you have an option to basically go to or open that into application or kind of update an application. So when I click on, okay, take me back to an application, it will take you to the right that information. Let's say it could be a Samarkand restaurant that I was looking for. This is my favorite feature in app indexing. Does anybody know that app indexing also allows autocomplete? Show of hand. Okay. Have you implemented it? So what it means is that, let's say I have an application installed on my phone. I'll take an example of Zomato. And I was looking for Samarkand restaurant. But now the application is somewhere in my phone, and whenever I want to search, where do I go typically? Google search, correct? I don't really go to any application, but I go to Google search. And then I said, Samarkand. But then Google figures out that, this user has accessed this page in the past. And the page is kind of, cached. It's kind of there with my user profile. So instead of showing me a result of, it will definitely show me a result for Samarkand using Zomato, website, and deep link and all. But when I start typing Samarkand, it will also give me that, hey, that information is there in your application. Do you directly want to go to application instead of completing the entire search query? Correct? So you could get the app indexing autocomplete also. This is one of a really cool feature. There are a bunch of partners in India who have implemented successfully. If you haven't done, I strongly recommend doing it. It's a really good experience as well. I mean, it's kind of delight factor. I mean, imagine you not going through entire search query and finding the content right in front of you. This is very important. App indexing influences your ranking. If you have not seriously given a thought to app indexing, I would strongly recommend to do that. It affects, obviously, the search ranking. Whenever user is searching information, the information is presented based on the relevance of a content of a query. But the ranking of, let's say, if your content is relevant to that particular search query, you want to ensure that it bubbles up in top 5 listings. And one of the way to kind of bubble it up is supporting app indexing. Make sense? Anybody didn't know that app indexing kind of influences search ranking? Show of hand. Okay. Rest of you know that app indexing has a search ranking influence. Okay. Before I go to the next slide, what are some of the other things that app indexing does or influences? Okay, experience in terms of? Better experience. Okay, let me give you a hint. App indexing also has a correlation with some announcement happened at Google I/O this year. Exactly, now on tap. If you have enabled app indexing, so now on tap is a pretty cool functionality where you can long press the home button in your Android phone, and then Google now kind of scans the information on the home screen or the front screen visible, and then it looks at, okay, how do I associate this particular information with my intelligence database? Now suppose if I'm chatting with somebody, sorry. If I'm chatting with somebody and I'm talking about, let's say, movie or a restaurant or let's say any piece of information, and if I do a now on tap, it kind of scans that, okay, you're talking about movie, you're talking about restaurant. Do you want to open this information with any of the application? Now, if I'm a Book My Show, and if I'm talking about that particular movie, it can either show me the movie rating, or it could show me what are the different theaters the movie is running. If I'm a restaurant, it kind of tells me, do you want to book a table? Correct? So a lot of cool things you can do with app indexing. I'll kind of quickly go back and just talk about that it's not about all this coolness feature and experience, but it's also about driving installs, driving engagements to user. I'll not go much into detail, but Etsy, which is a personalized e-commerce partner, have been seeing some tremendous result in terms of traffic. Yellow Pages has been seeing some fantastic result out of it. Daily Mail has been seeing some interesting result on engagement. People are spending more time, 20% more time on per visit, on Daily Mail. So, if you haven't done it, I strongly recommend. A couple of applications in India who have done fantastically well. Make My Trip, NDTV, I would say, is fantastic. Myntra has been doing fantastic. Somebody had a question that we are app-only business, and how do we do that? App-only indexing is, I would say, right now in very private beta. It's not open about it, but happy to chat with you and understand your use case and see if we can, kind of get you enrolled into it. Right now, app indexing is purely on one-to-one mapping between your website content and your application content. Okay? Any questions on app indexing before I move to something else? Yes, there's a question at the back. Can we have a mic?
Hello.
Yeah.
App indexing stores all my data from my apps, and whenever I come across some relevant data, it tries searching for the data in my database, in my apps, and it matches the content, and it tells me that I have been searching for such content in this data, right? Maybe I have visited a page in my apps, not in a web browser. In my apps, some page or some content, and I'm visiting a website where the same content is there. I long press the content, and will it show in my apps also?
Yes. So basically, let's say, so the use case is that a user has kind of browsed the content in an application. That is a step one. And then, found information useful or not useful, kind of it. So I will not go much into it. The second step is that now user is browsing on website and found some relevant content, kind of a matching content. And at that time, user kind of presses now on tap. So when you do now on tap kind of scans that particular page which is there, in front of you, and then says that, identifies the most relevant information. Now suppose if there are 3 or 4 hyperlinks, correct? The priority basically gets to the first, the most prominent link around it. And then it says that, this link or this particular information is available using below application. And then it will kind of, give you whether you want to open this application, and after opening, do you want to take any action, so you could do that.
In other way, that means that Google is scanning my application data.
You are, so the way app indexing work is that you implement app indexing API, you implement app indexing, and you give access to Google that, hey, Google, I would want my data to be crawled by search engine. Without your permission, Google cannot do that.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions? Cool. So I'll move to Now API. This is something really interesting. What I like about Now is the context. As we move, a lot of advancement in technology happens. People are kind of, using their phones all the time. It's in a personal device. Now, and a lot of information, personal information, contextual information is there with your phone. Now, how can, Google search kind of, leverage on those contexts and predict and kind of, proactively give you a right search information? And that's what Now API is all about. What I like about Now is that whenever I have booked a flight, and it kind of gives me that, okay, this is the right time you should leave for the airport. Really, really useful. If I have a meeting, it says that, this is the right time you should leave for your meeting. If there's a lunch time, it kind of, these are the restaurants nearby available you, and it knows my preference that I like, I'm a vegetarian. It kind of gives me an option, which is a vegetarian food, around me. So that's what about Now API. It's all about context. Context in form of location, in form of time, and in form of personal information. That's the context we are talking about. And then, as a developer, as an application provider, you need to think that where is your user, correct? What is he doing? And then kind of, give results or kind of give your, solution in that perspective around it. Here is an example of Airbnb and Pandora. And by the way, Google Now is still in private beta, not public. We are testing a lot with some of the developers in India. But if you have a strong use case, please talk to me after the event, or tweet to Google developers, and we'll see how we can take it forward. So in this particular use case, what is happening is that I drive from my home to work every day morning around 7:30. It knows that the drive is around 20 minutes, and I like to listen to music. Correct? I specifically listen to either Lata Mangeshkar or Kishore Kumar music when I'm driving. It says that, and it automatically records that, okay, it knows I'm driving, it knows what I like, and it says that, hey, here is a Pandora list of Lata Mangeshkar. Do you want to just start playing it? Super, super helpful. It's a kind of assisted approach towards entire, search and driving engagement to your application. Now, imagine if you are in, that kind of information, and how you can enable some of those things in your application. I'm kind of thinking about, let's say, could be the same feature could be implemented by Ghana, Savan, but more about Book My Show, I would say, because it knows that I like watching movies. It knows where am I in, and kind of say that hey, there are movie theaters, and it kind of the tickets available. Would you like to go and watch it? Correct. So it's very assistive. It's not kind of forcefully information right in front of you, but it's very assistive to kind of help you on that perspective. Any questions before I move to voice actions? Yes? Correct. So the question is that what happens if there are two applications which is kind of competing for the same search query space that you kind of. I think it again fallbacks into your search ranking. Though I have a two application, but my phone, my context knows that which one I use more. I mean, it's highly unlikely you have a 3 music application and you're using all 3 of them. Correct? You're probably using one for, let's say, I would use one for Indian music, and there's one which I use for mostly Sufi and some of the other thing. So it knows, and it knows that when I'm driving back, I mostly listen to Indian music. So I would say the conflict resolution is not that difficult. But if you have a strong use case, and if you think this is going to come into a picture, happy to discuss more. Voice actions. Voice action is interesting way of kind of a very natural way of interacting with your application. How many of you use OK Google? Do you like it? Yes? It's kind of very delight factor on top of it. I have a liking for OK Google and disliking for OK Google as well. Liking because it does most of the system thing. Whatever the system command does fantastically well. and disliking because, if you, when you want to have a grammar which is specific to an application, it kind of doesn't really understand. And then I was kind of, I've reached out to a search team saying that, hey guys, why can't we make it a little bit more simpler? And they said, if you want to have your specific grammar to recognize by Google's speech recognition engine, you need to work with Google. For example, let's say, I'll take an example of Grofers, correct, which is a hyperlocal grocery delivery service. And I want to say that, help me find a store which has XYZ thing, or it has my grocery shopping list. So if you look at the structure of that grammar is that help me find store which has, so there are 5-6 different variables comes into picture. And there is no way Google now is going to recognize that unless and until you tell Google now that, hey, this is what I mean by it. So you need to work with Google now, define that grammar, define that phrase. Once it recognizes, you also need to tell what action it should take. It's not just recognizing it. Once recognizing, there needs to be something, correct? Otherwise, it's of no use. So you need to work with Google on that and say that, okay, this is what I want to implement. Bunch of applications are kind of working on Google now. This is some stats about it. I'm sure Sandeep did talk about in the morning as well. Most teens, the younger generation are much open and they are willing to adopt new technology and features around it. So this is about Google now. So 3 things, if I would say, if I would conclude in simple ways, that if you need to increase a user acquisition, I would strongly recommend app indexing. And when I say app indexing, not the half-baked app indexing, but full-fledged app indexing to kind of enhance the power and see the result or see the value of app indexing in your user acquisition. Second thing, use it for driving engagement back to your application. Correct. Most of the time, users have forgotten that there is an application which also has a content that you're looking for. Correct. How do you kind of surface that content when user is searching, either through autocomplete, either through deep linking. So that's what I recommend. Now API, private beta, but happy to understand if you have a strong use case. Context is key. If you think that you have a content which will help user to give contextual information, you should look at Now API. Really delight factor when it comes to engagement. And the last thing is the voice action. So that's it from my side. If you think this session was useful, tweet me. Talk to me after this session. I'm around. Or if you don't find me, send me a message, send me a tweet, and I'll ensure I'll follow up with you. I have around like 5 minutes, and I'm happy to take a few questions if you have any. Sure.
I understand that voice actions can drive engagement back to my app.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
From within my app, if I have to use voice actions, is there a Google API that I can use specific to my app alone? Let's say I want to...
Give me a use case.
So within my app, I want to do a search.
Within your application, you want to do a search. So yeah, you need to define that grammar. So for example, so there is a twofold of action you need to do there. A, first, whatever user is trying to convey to an application. Correct? So okay, there are 3 levels of information. A, there is a shell on top of an operating system, which needs to parse what you're saying. Once it parses, it needs to recognize. And once it recognizes, it needs to do some action. Now once user is within your application action, then there is not voice action, but then there are other voice commands that you could enable for your application. And I understand Slam Dunk team? Yeah. So Slam Dunk has a wonderful wearable application. If you haven't tried, you should give it a go. So once user is inside the Slam Dunk application, and then you could kind of see how do you want to take the user journey, or how do you want user
so
to
basically my question was, say, I want to go start swinging, go for a drive now, or start bowling. I want to enable those voice actions from within my app. I don't know if voice actions API supports such an action.
So it's a combination of voice actions. Voice actions will let you kind of recognize and do, kind of trigger your application. And then, there is another set of, commands in your application that you have to parse, that you have to give it to Google saying that, okay, start recording. or something, I don't know, whatever it's a swimming or it's a badminton or whatever the sports is, and based on that it should do that.
Okay.
Sure, we have one question there. Yeah.
Sir, that app ranking, how it will help to the web also? What is the percentage of the?
See, if you look at, so the way how app indexing works is that, assume you have a website,
Yes.
correct? And you have some content on your website. Let's assume that you are a news application and you have a content about Narendra Modi, hypothetically. And you have an application as well, and which also have a content about Narendra Modi, which is the same content, more or less. So what you do is that when Google kind of tries to crawl your website, it says that there is a content available, and based on the quality of content, Google kind of assigns a rank to your page. Clear? Step 1. Step 2 is that you need to link your app content with your website, saying that, hey, hi Google, this is Narendra Modi content. I also have a similar content on my application. And once Google kind of gets this token, it kind of tries to access this information and validates if it is the same. If it validates, then it stores both your app content and your web content on the same page rank. Sorry?
Sir, in web pages, we have a GA code. Means Google Analytics code is available. But in apps, there is no GA code. So how the signal they are synchronizing?
Yeah, so I think so few things about GA. If you look at GA was designed for a web. There is a GA for apps as well, which is, we believe,
Yes.
kind of a really good start for that particular, domain. But the tracking of that, maybe, it's kind of little, I'm not sure if many of the people would be interested in knowing about it, but happy to, chat with you offline.
Okay.
And see how we can do it. But I would say in some or other way, you should be able to do it.
Thank you, sir.
There's one question. Wow, this is a really quiet audience.
As sir told, we can do voice recognition in a app. We can make a grammar and tell Google that this grammar is going to do some kind of function.
When you create a grammar, you need to give it to Google saying that, hey, this is my grammar.
Yeah.
And when you recognize this grammar, this is the action that I want to take.
Let the grammar be something like I want to purchase a bag. Let it be.
As long as it is.
Yeah, it is too long, and the user has done this function or an action or then that event before also. What is the probability that Google will not parse each of the words of that grammar and search rather than the whole grammar?
Sure. So if you ask me, we would like to be in that situation.
Let it be.
So let me answer the question. We would like to be in that situation. We are not yet. For a simplicity of a user, as a developer, you really get joy out of making things, packing everything into one structure. But from a user's point of view, if you try to make things too complex, for example, if in one sentence, for example, if you try to answer, and I was watching a video yesterday that, okay, Google, tell me what is the day after tomorrow after 5 days. Now, if you ask me, it's a good question to ask and to test, whether my engineering is right or not. But from a user's point of view, those kind of question is very rare. So if I would be your place, ideally we would like to be at that particular stage. But see, the key here is a simplicity, delighting your user, ensuring that, the new way of interaction is happening, rather than kind of, complicating the situation. So the first question is that if you're building it, if you're giving grammar, constructing grammar, make it simple. Second thing, if you cannot avoid having a simple grammar and if you have a complex grammar, I would say try to be, be realistic in terms of, the chances of that grammar to recognize by different people. People have a different accent, people have a different way of, communicating. So keep that thing in mind. But I would say my experience working with that is that the more the complex, the more the entire experience is going to, kind of jeopardize. And at the end of the day, user is not able to fulfill that particular action.
And what if that event has been done by the user before
Every time it has to do it.
The priority will be given to the user history or that whole.
So let's say if I would say call mom,
Yeah.
it will, though it has recognized that particular grammar, but if I need to call my mom, I need to kind of, I need to give that input every single time. Sure.
Across the three products that you talked about, one thing which is really common is it's an output based on intent, right? So I say shop Palmolive cream, for example. Now that's being sold by X number of e-commerce players. If that's what I want to do, which is it that's going to show up? What's the complexity that needs to be solved to be prioritized?
So fantastic question. No, fantastic question. So when Google recognizes that particular grammar, it kind of communicates back that you want to shop ABC, and then if there are more than one applications available, let's say more than one channel to fulfill that action, it will tell you, how do you want it to fulfill that action? Do you want me to shop it on Flipkart or Myntra or Amazon? So it will basically tell you. And then, and let's say you say Amazon, then it kind of, goes ahead and, kind of tries to fulfill that action.
There is a preemptive question.
There is a preemptive question.
Okay, thanks.
So this is a continuation of the explanation you gave. So you said that if there is an article on Narendra Modi on my website and on my app, right? So I can link it, index it, and tell Google that this is related to the same, so it'll get the same ranking on Google search, right? So if I'm on app-only mode, I don't have a website or a web app per se. My content is only on the app, and it's coming from a web service which is secluded, so it does not get indexed. Does it get indexed? One. So how I can get it indexed, and how much of a weightage it would add if I add a web app to have this content out on the web as well. So
Sorry,
will it help me in search?
Could you repeat the second question?
So if I'm on a app-only mode, so my app, the content is completely on my app, right? And it's on my web services, which comes to the app directly. There's no web app where you can directly go and see that. So would it make sense for me to create a web app to increase the ranking or weightage on Google indexing?
So to answer your first question is that, we kind of recognize the need of app-only indexing. We have a very private beta which is kind of in functional. It's not open to all the all the app developers because it's very early stage, and we understand there's a strong amount of business, its experience, kind of it will be broken if you kind of open it to multiple people. But I think we have that thing in our product roadmap, and we hope to kind of have it soon. To second question is that, I mean, I would try to answer it differently, that irrespective of, so that is kind of gaming. Okay, I need to boost my rank, so I need to do things around it. I wouldn't recommend that. I would rather look at it in terms of what is my user experience. Correct. Where if for my user it makes sense to have a website, I will build a website. If for me it makes sense to build an application, I'll build an application. So I would kind of try to approach that point of view. And the way to identify what your user need is that you need to draw user journeys, do your research, and find out some of the information. Yeah, we have a question here.
Yeah, this is a follow-up to the previous question from the front row. If the intent can be fulfilled by two apps, so for instance, I want to buy a pair of Nike shoes, it can be fulfilled by Snapdeal and by Flipkart, and I have Flipkart on my phone. Would I still be prompted to get Snapdeal, or would it just be fulfilled by the app on my phone?
It depends. I would say, for example, I wanted to send a message. Correct. I have a 3 messenger on my phone: WhatsApp, Facebook, and my Hangout. And I wanted to say, send a message to Bharat. Now, it identifies, it kind of, figures out my contact and, it gives me, hey, this is a Bharat and this is a message you want to send out. But how do you want to send out? Correct? Though the grammar is still not, really talking about which application, but when I say, hey, I want to fulfill that application using ABC application, specific called out if you want to, do that. If you want to do something on Snapdeal, I mean, there is no way a Google search will know what is there in your mind. Correct? Unless and until you kind of, give us a lot of information and write a lot of context. So I would say it helps in your case as a developer, as a user also, if you give the right information for Google to give you right search results. Cool. That's it, folks. I'm outside, happy to take a few more questions if you have any. Or send me a tweet and happy to reply that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please join me in welcoming Gaurav Kapoor, Head Performances Google India and SCA.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gaurav Kapoor, and I would like to call in my panelist now. Sudarshan from Ola Cabs. He's the vice president over there. Thank you so much for coming, Sudarshan. We have Sudeep from ClearTrip. And we have Lizo from Tractor.com. Hey, thank you so much for making time for this panel discussion. I'm sure people will go back with a lot of learnings from your experiences. Before we can start with the discussion, it will be very good if you can just give us a 60-second top line about Practo, ClearTrip, and then Ola. Everybody knows about the companies very well, but it would be good to just hear from you first.
Okay, thanks, Garu. Thanks for inviting Practo for this event. So, so my name is Lijo Isaac. I handle growth at Practo across 100 cities in India and 5 countries where we have launched. So the mobile marketing for Practo started from last year from the same event. We were the winner of the Google for Mobile app last year when we were at 20,000 installs. Now we are touching 2 million installs as I speak to you, and we have grown 100x over last 1 year, and we'll be excited to share our app growth marketing journey throughout the last 1 year and looking forward to it.
Suman.
Hi, I'm Suman. I head the mobile product team at ClearTrip. So we are the second largest OTA in the country right now. We're present in like 6 countries. Apart from India, we're present like pretty big in the GCC countries, UAE, Saudi Arabia. And so our journey is also like pretty similar to what Lijo just said. So we've grown exponentially in the last year and a half. So we are at now over 7 million downloads across platforms. Yeah, so I'll probably share some nuggets from the product side, what we've been doing in terms of growing our user base.
Hi, I'm Sudarshan. I head marketing at Ola. I'm hoping most of you would have used an Ola either to come or generally as well. We are in 100 cities. We do about close to 500,000. We transport almost a million people every single day now. And this is in the last 15 months. When I joined 15 months back, we were transporting about 10,000 people a day. So this entire, we've been part of the growth story here as well. So, and we are now app only. So our entire 100% business comes through the app. So yeah, looking forward to this session.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much, Sudarshan. So actually, let's start from you only, Sudarshan. You have 15 million plus installs, if I'm not wrong? Approximately, or more than that?
More than.
More than that. What would be the 2 most important strategies you think you've applied to get this strong user base of like 15 million people? I mean, 2 most important things you would have done which helped you come up with this huge number of 15 million.
So, See, installs is a derivative, which basically means, there is a demand that you need to generate. There has to be an inbound interest, and that's when you can drive so many installs at a reasonable cost. Otherwise, you cannot be buying 15 million installs. So so what we have done is to make sure all our organic and inbound interest is converted into as much as possible into app installs, and which is where most of our installs comes from. So that's one big piece. Whatever is your organic traffic, you need to make sure you can convert that very quickly into app installs. And multiple points is where you will see it. The other piece that we did was actually two more pieces. One was while there is an organic traffic, there is also our referral program, which is extremely strong. So wherever you have some points where customers need to interact with you and potentially gain some kind, so any offers that we were running, about a year back, we switched every single thing to app. So if you want extra gratification of any sort, that will come on the app. So while there is a lot of focus on user acquisition, we were very clear that we wanted to focus on acquiring not just a new user, but the right user habit. So we were very clear that we will only drive customer acquisition of a certain type. So that was another way in which, while it was semi-paid, but that's something which we made sure that any money that goes out only if you're transacting through an app. And thirdly would be just the app installation campaigns as well. So there's always that extra boost that you need to kickstart a lot of campaigns or to supplement or complement a lot of your external campaigns. So we've been using app installs very strategically in terms of complementing or supplementing existing campaigns as well.
Great, thanks. Suman, can you know from you, ClearTrip, what have been your two top most biggest strategies to help you reach 7 million?
Yeah, sure. So on the paid side, so one thing that we've been constantly focusing on is quality of users, right? It's very easy to pay for downloads, but we've never optimized anything based on CPIs. So the thing that we've always looked at is the acquisition of a new customer, right? So all our campaigns are basically optimized based on that. So whether be it a flight booking, a hotel booking, or even a train booking. So that's, on the paid side, that's one of the things. A secondary to that is basically we've experimented with a lot of tools. So we've, in terms of tracking these campaigns, so we've, whatever is the best tool available, we are not hesitant to kind of migrate to it. So that way is something that we've been able to optimize these campaigns better. On the second side, on the second thing that we'd say is our product itself, right? So we've still kept the mobile site alive, and we hope to continue doing it. And that's something that's given us a lot of installs as well. That's because travel is inherently a need-based product, right? So we didn't think it fit to kind of take that option out of our customers' phones, right? So using the mobile site and deep links, judiciously, we've been able to drive a lot of organic downloads that way.
And you said tracking is something which you've leveraged very strongly, not control your CPIs and your install base.
Right. So as I said, the CPIs is not what we optimize on. So we always look at the CPAs, how much are we paying for a flight booking or a hotel booking. So that ensures that we have the right quality of customers as well. So while potentially we could have larger numbers of downloads, but at least we have a very engaged.
You want more users, active users, rather than having
Yes.
only an install base. Lijo, let's understand from you.
Yeah, so in the case of Practo, it's very different because we can't run a referral program and we can't run discounts. So doctor bookings cannot be discounted. So that's illegal as per the Medical Council of India. So what has worked very well for us is that we optimize for cost per calculated user. So installs is actually a vanity metrics if you look at it. What matters to you as an app developer or app marketer is what is the monthly active users you got at the end of each month. If you're able to ensure that there is a growth rate in monthly active users, then you are on the right track. So don't go for installs, always go for monthly active users. So we have got one lever which maybe both Ola and ClearTrip may not have, which is the supply side. So a lot of doctors recommend Practo app to their patients because they have found that a patient who has got Practo app makes more frequent appointments. So doctors actually gives us a good lever. In addition to that, the organic percentage for us is also extremely on the higher side. So the desktop as well as the mobile side helps to drive a lot of installs. And we measure all our marketing programs based on cost per calculated user. The user will come through one media source, whether the same user has remained with you for 7 days, 14 days, or 30 days. So we actually optimize all the media sources based on cost per calculated user. One of the things that worked wonderfully well for us was the TV advertisement, which we did in April during the IPL time. I hope some of you may have seen it. So the app was, that advertisement was very specifically designed to show the use of app across various instances in life. In fact, the entire campaign was called Life May. So that helped us in giving, that helped us to make, it gave some 4x more installs than whatever we had at that stage, and it gave us a lot of reach. So whatever worked 1 year back when we won the award in the same event is not working now. So you have to continuously evolve and adapt in such a way that your organic percentage always remains high and your monthly active users also will go up month on month.
So basically having the right metrics base for your users who install the app is something which is like the most important thing. How do you calculate that? I mean,
how do you have monthly active users in, you expect people to fall sick every month?
Not really.
Just pulling your leg, just pulling it.
Not really. So I don't start my day by saying that please more people fall sick again. It's not like that. So basically we were a utility app which is known for doctor booking. So we do doctor booking extremely well. So we started from being a utility app to a companion app. So if you actually look at Practo app in your phone, you can see that we have got a new product called Practo Consult, which is actually mobile only. So you can ask a lot of questions to doctor without going to the doctor. So essentially what you do is that you introduce more use cases out there, which will satisfy all the users for a particular user. It may not be only doctor appointment, but there are a lot of things out there where the app can be useful. So you take user inputs on that and you try to actually implement it in app, still when you're maintaining that app weight is on the lower side.
got it. So from a media strategy, from a media standpoint, I'm sure you use TV, you use offline, you use press, you use online, you like many online channels. So if I had to ask you one question, which is the most effective one, I mean maybe the top two, which are the most effective sources of app installs which lead into app transactions also? I mean, it might vary from company to company, but what has been your experience, I mean, which you would want to advise so many developers who are sitting over here?
So for us, as I mentioned, we actually measure everything for cost per calculated user. At each stage of your marketing journey, the objective is very different. So Google AdWords is something that works really well for us. Facebook is also something that works really well for us. But the challenge with both these media sources is that they are not able to get as much scale as that is required. But there are certain app marketing partners also who has worked really well for us. The TV ad actually gave us lot of boost in terms of installs, but it gave us a lot of negative reviews also in the Play Store, primarily because we are not launched in a lot of cities across India. So there are various media vehicles which work at various stages of our journey, but Google AdWords as well as Facebook are two media sources that have worked extremely well all throughout these months.
Great. Suman?
So for us, it's pretty much Facebook and Google only because we've not done a TV campaign in the last 2 years. And the rest of it is basically product-led, essentially.
So for us, our offline campaigns, TV and even outdoors, we do a lot of city level. They tend to give a very large uptick in terms of organic, surprisingly. So they last for a longer time, and when we done a full-fledged 360-degree campaign, the uptick that we got in terms of non-performance organic, and then the way it sustains for a much longer time. So your level goes from here to here, and then that level sustains. And that's a function of them having a very different level of reach, and obviously, the media has a certain impact. So surprisingly, from a longer-term perspective, organic goes up, is in our opinion, because of TV and offline. But like I said, there is the day-to-day performance, their day-to-day business that needs to be run, and that level of control cannot happen through, you cannot be always on offline. So that's why for us, digital has been the other big piece. Search volumes has never been very high in our category as such, so which is why we've used for, typically display is where we've used to get a lot more customer acquisition through app installs.
From organic sources, you said. Online.
Display, I mean Google display as well as Facebook. So.
And what are your success measures for app installs? So for example, you have hypothetically 1 million installs today, hypothetically. How do you measure the success that you have a successful base of people who install your apps? How do you measure that?
So like you said, it is ideally lifetime value, but unfortunately
But do you calculate lifetime value for your service also?
We are still, we wouldn't say we are very good at calculating that, which is why while that's something which is on the radar, the primary metric we use is cost of the first acquisition, first booking done. So it is the install to sign up to the first booking. So that's our, I mean all of these funnels are tracked for any app install campaign that we run.
Got it. And how about you, Suman? How would ClearTrip measure the success of app install?
Yeah, so as I said, the primary metric for the campaigns is CPA. So it's basically cost per booking that we get out of these campaigns. Best in actives or weekly actives. We don't look at that much, but cohorts is something that we focus on.
These are for you also, you said.
Yeah, so we actually go for cost per calculated users as well as cohorts. But in our case, it's slightly limited because it's more of doctor booking, which is on the QS stage. So now we have actually defined micro actions as well. Whether somebody searches for a doctor, whether somebody asks a question in Practo Consult, things like that. So the marketing, so once a user is acquired, then the marketing levers are geared towards making him few actions within the app. Because we find that whenever the user makes one appointment through Practo app, then the likely chance of him booking appointment again and again is very high. It's about making sure that the user is getting the first taste of the experience. So we use it cohort, we use it cost per calculated users, and our marketing is geared towards the micro actions within the app.
Can you just talk a little more about the micro searches that you mentioned, the micro searches that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so micro actions.
Micro actions.
So micro actions, so basically, so once a user comes and installs the app, a lot of users just install the app and then they forget about it. So what we do is that we send personalized notifications to that user, basically to instigate them to search for a particular kind of specialty or search for making sure that they are asking a question in our Practo Consult. So these are the micro actions. So for us, it's not the end transaction or booking the appointment with the doctor. These are stages prior to it. So these preventive stages ensure that finally, whenever he requires a doctor, Practo remains his app of choice.
So you also base your campaigns based on these micro actions that take.
Yes. So we track each and everything to check what is the user doing, he's at which stage. So all the actions that happens, all the marketing that happens within the app is geared towards making sure that user is using these micro actions.
So that actually brings me to my next question, which you actually pointed out right now. We know that millions of people will download the app, but they will not use the app for a long time. They'll uninstall. What are the few things that you do to ensure that you engage with your existing users? Because the success is not in the install, success is in transaction and engagement. So what are the 2 or 3 things you do? One is micro actions, you said. Is there anything else which you do?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do anything. You can't have weekend packages, of course. So.
Okay, we can't have weekend packages, but there are a lot of things that we can do if the user has actually booked an appointment. So if somebody has booked a dental appointment, then we send him dental tips. If somebody has actually searched for a doctor within a particular area, then we actually send him a notification with details of the doctor in that particular area. So we do a lot of personalized notifications, but very few people receive it because all our marketing, we don't want to do spam and we don't want to actually, create friction in the user experience. So we do very controlled kind of notifications, which helps us in increasing the monthly active users as well. So we are not like those e-commerce companies which actually send a notification every day in the morning and evening. So we just ensure that we send the right kind of notifications without troubling the user.
Yeah, so
that can actually lead to a debate.
The first thing that we basically do is when we're building the product, we think of distributions right up front. So how do we distribute a feature or something that we are adding to a product? Now, obviously there's a lot, so this is something that drives both engagement as well as installs. So a lot of our users book on desktop, but they have a smartphone. So how do you reach them? So email, SMS, push, it depending on what the user might be having, like what channel. So you target them with on that channel. So essentially, so for example, we added something as a like a check-in for a flight, and we kind of hooked it into a SMS thing. So anyone who has not done a check-in for like a few days before the flight actually departs, we send them a reminder to note, check in for the flight, and that SMS basically contains a deep link. And then if you have the app, you go directly into the app. If you don't have the app, you go to the store and you install, and then you go into that flow itself directly. So that's one thing. The second thing I would say is, again, like just adding on to notifications. So one thing is, like, we don't like to spam users with notifications. Like, so our frequency is like probably 1 or maybe 2 notifications a week. And what we have seen there with being so stingy with the notifications is, like, when we send the notifications that are of real value to users, we've seen a spike in install numbers. So which kind of shows that there's a word of mouth effect that comes into play with notifications if you're doing it like smartly and not spamming users. And the third thing is basically being on top of the platform, essentially, like implementing app indexing, or like if you're on iOS, Spotlight indexing. So being kind of covering every distribution channel that is available to you while you're building the product, because it's very difficult to do it later on.
So are your notifications based on the past user actions, or is it like mass notifications?
No, so there are
I'm sure you would have built those technologies.
Right. So there are multiple kinds. So if it's like for example, an airline sale, which we think is going to be useful for everyone, so we'll send it to everyone. But if it's like something else that we know maybe some people won't like, in that case we just remove the top bookers, so people who have been booking recently and a lot. So it goes to people who have not booked recently. So that kind of segmentation we do.
Got it. Darshan, can I know from you?
So pretty much the same. I think there was search earlier, then there was remarketing on websites, and remarketing was targeted at each page, right? So it's the equivalent of that. All customer touchpoints, all wherever in the journey he is, and of course then you have the whole customer lifecycle management. So basically every touch point that you can have with the customer, so you look at a segment and see if a messaging makes sense to him or not, and then reach out to him there. So what we do is replicate the entire customer lifecycle journey that otherwise would have existed, and we replicate that back.
So would you also track engagement rate of your existing install base as a measurement metric?
Absolutely,
for
yeah.
success?
Yeah.
Is that like one of the things that you track?
Yes. In fact, we'll segment them and then look at their individual cohorts and engagement.
So what would be your biggest challenges when you have a large install base and when you want to grow your install base? So what are the kind of challenges that you face from users? One is a technology challenge, one would be competition. Yeah. My question is more from a user standpoint. What are the kind of challenges that you face from users on a regular basis?
I think uninstall rates are a big problem in the industry in general. So everyone has got huge uninstall rates, and one wonders why is somebody even installing. So there are reasons which are a problem with the app or a problem with the phone or whatever. So the whole uninstall tracking and uninstall is something which is a big problem area for us, and with a base like ours, and we see very large number of people who keep on installing, and nothing wrong with us, it's just the industry benchmark itself. So that's something which we are still struggling to figure out, what's the right way to analyze.
And there's no way you can control the decline? I mean, you can't stop the decline.
We do that, but it's again shooting in the dark, because we haven't seen very, very effective ways in which we can do a cause and effect analysis. There is correlation, but there is not cause and effect.
Is it from people who have been using the Ola app, or is it from people who never use the app and they also understand?
Across. So yeah, and again, even that level of, and there's a lot more depth that you can do in terms of who's uninstalling, when are they installing, So we're trying with trying a couple of tools right now, but really that is one piece which is not very well solved for us.
Suman, from you.
Yeah, so yeah, uninstalls is definitely a problem for us as well. But what we've realized is probably it's not something that we should break our heads on right now, because given the nature of the product itself that we have, yeah, probably some people don't need it, so they uninstall, they'll install it later. So we also use a couple of tools to kind of figure out who are these people uninstalling and kind of try to retarget them on some other media, like for example, Google or Facebook or via email. So that's one thing, and the second thing I would say is engagement itself. Again, because of given the nature of the product, right? So you don't need to book a flight or a hotel every day, every week, and that's a very small segment of business travelers. But kind of keeping the users engaged. How do you keep that engaged?
Is that why you've launched weekend activities, which helps you engage the user with
So
other
that's why we kind of launched this product.
You want to talk about weekend activities?
So activities is kind of a curated collection of things like short duration experiences that you can kind of take part in. Like we are right now in around 25 cities. For example, in Bangalore, you can go for a scuba diving. You can rent a yacht in Mumbai. Go pub hopping in Calcutta. There's a microlight flying that you can do in Bangalore, golf classes, culinary classes, food walks, everything. So we're starting to see a lot of engagement there. So yeah, so as I said, like a lot of our, whatever we do, even for engagement and installs, is driven by product itself. So activities is one thing that we basically launched to kind of get this thing on, and solve this engagement problem that we have.
Lisa?
Yeah, agree with both ClearTrip and Ola. So uninstall rates remain a huge challenge. So the basic concept is whether you can actually change yourself from being a utility app to a companion app. Companion app is an app which user accesses much more frequently. So we have also started, similar to what ClearTrip did, we have actually launched this product called Practo Consult, where the user can come and ask any question to any doctor. So the insight for this came from doctors only who told us that they are actually busy with patients from 10 to 12. Then they are busy with patients again from 5 to 9. But between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock, they have got a lot of free time, which they wanted to use. So we figured out that there are a lot of users out there who want to go and see doctors for where the prescription is just the information exchange. So these are things like knee pain, eye pain, dandruff and things like that. So we have created this product called Practo Consult. So if you use Practo app, you can actually go to Practo Consult and you can ask a question to a doctor, and doctors will actually answer to it. Multiple doctors, in fact, answers to those questions. So this is something that helps us in driving engagement. So how each of the app in various industries figures out this engagement puzzle is something, that we will see over some time.
So I want to ensure I leave some time for the audience to ask some questions. But before we do that, Ola, ClearTrip, and Practo, all of you lead in your respective verticals. Let's say for 2016, what would be your priorities? From an app install standpoint or from an engagement standpoint, would there be anything different that Sudarshan you would be doing in the coming year? Because I'm sure you've earned a lot of more experience from users, technology, competition. So would it be very different what you would be doing next year?
Yeah, I think the focus is for the next 2 to 3 quarters is engagement and re-engagement. So we are also getting a lot more clear in terms of how we want a user to engage with our platform. We are a daily use product, unlike others. So we need to make sure our customers are coming back every single day to the app, because transport is consumed every single day. So we need to make sure they look at us as a reason why they should, how they should commute on a daily basis. So ours is a daily use product. So for us, it's engagement that's going to take. It's always been there, but from an app engagement, that's going to be the centerpiece for us.
So engaging the existing.
Absolutely, re-engagement with the audience, engagement and re-engagement both. So.
Yeah. So one is again like engagement, but like we've talked enough about engagement, but so one thing that we have focused on is basically the next wave of users who are coming on board on mobile, right? So for example, today, as of today, we're seeing more than 50% of the train bookings that are happening on our app on ClearTrip are on the apps basically. So,
Train booking.
Train bookings. So essentially what we are seeing is there's a lot of other like tier 2, tier 3 cities from where a lot of new users are coming and they're basically using the app. So we have kind of focused on getting the right product for them, both in terms of the technology, like keeping the app size low so that it doesn't impact the, like the slow networks don't impact the experience, and basically introducing new products which can serve the travel needs of this next wave of users.
Got it. Lisa? What
So-
changes for you in 2016, which is different from 2015?
So the basic premise that drives everybody at Practo is the fact that we give comfort to the people when they are really sick and frustrated. So that underlying principle remains the same, whether it's 2014 or 2016. But the challenge for us, especially on the app side, is taking Practo across 10 to 25 countries. By March 2016, we'll be present in 10 countries. Currently, we are in live countries. So the challenges of marketing, challenges of working in various countries are different. For example, the Singapore is actually totally ahead when compared to India, but Philippines and Indonesia is slightly on the slightly on the backward track when compared to mobile adoption, etc. So how to actually take the app as well as the service of Practo across all these countries by 2016 is a huge challenge, so, including adopting it for various local languages like Bahasa in Indonesia, adopting it for various services, ensuring that the electronic medical records, all the electronic medical records that you will ever have will be present in Practo app. So healthcare is ready for disruption and we are very excited to take this forward to Practo app.
That's good.
So I'll just elaborate a little bit on his point as well. So from our perspective, the early adopters and the early majority is already on our platform. So the next set of people are the typically in the curve that were called the late majority. So that is a very different challenge, both in terms of communication as well as the product itself. So our focus also is to, how do you get those set of people to come with minimal barriers, because the barriers for them are very different from the barriers for the early majority. So
and getting them will be much more difficult than getting the early adopters.
That's right. So but they are seeing the early majority, so they often follow from a word of mouth, but you need to make sure the barrier is as minimal as possible. And we'll be launching a lot more, many more services that are targeted to a very different customer set for us. So which is why...
like Ola Cafe?
That's already launched. So yeah, we'll be launching a lot more in the transport space. So which is why the next set of customers and how do you create a product that works for them is going to be the challenge, another piece, both from a communication and a product perspective.
Thank you so much. So we'll open the house for some questions. Please raise your hand and we'll give you the mic. Mic over here, please.
Hello. Hi, thank you for such wonderful insights. I have used this ClearTrip and very happy with your product. Thanks for such a good interface. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. My question is with respect to Ola. Okay. I'm an active user of.
I thought the question was for ClearTrip.
No, I just want to express my gratitude to him. That's it. When it comes to Ola, I'm an active user of Ola and I use it every week, okay? But you still send me SMSs stating your offers. Is there any logic behind, because SMSs cost you a lot, and is it just that, what is the logic behind sending the SMS even though
So, the SMS frequency would have increased in recent times.
Yeah, I'm really pissed with that, so I just want to ask.
No, so SMS in the end is, it has about 45 to 50% delivery rate because D&D covers the rest of them, but it's still a one-on-one communication tool. Our push systems are still being developed to be extremely precise, which means you can send a push at a user ID level. That's not as precise as yet, and which is why that becomes our only way to reach a one-on-one, from a one-on-one communication tool perspective.
Okay.
Hi, I've got two questions, one for Practo and one for Ola. In Practo, is there a doctor ranking you do in your app where, based on user feedback or how were they diagnosed or something like that? And the second question for Ola is that are you talking about the early adopters and the late entrants? Probably language could become a big barrier now that you're in 100 cities. Is there a local language app also being introduced in Ola? And yeah, that's about it.
So, I think we've got, right now the plans are still to remain English, while our communication will now start to be a lot more local language driven, our marketing communication and our acquisition communication. But the app, we still see people have a pretty decent understanding, and the way we've simplified the app, there really is just there's a map that comes up, you click on one button and your cab is booked. So there's minimal understanding that is required there. So right now we are looking to continue in English, but the vernacular part will be more for communication side.
So for Practo, we just list doctors, we don't rank doctors. So the way in which the doctors are displayed in the website is an internal algorithm that is powered automatically without any manual intervention. So we just list doctors, we don't rank doctors. It's upon users to decide which doctor to choose. So the second thing about the local part, so we first experimented with our local language in Indonesia. We launched entire Practo app as well as website in Bahasa. So I don't know whether you saw the presentation in the morning where they said that 500 million users will use internet in India using local languages. That is something that we are also working towards. So we want to actually make it easy for anybody in India and across the world to find doctors, and whatever it takes to make it easy for people to get to the doctors of the choice, we'll do all that, including the local language and other services as well.
Thank you.
Can we have the mic there?
Hello everyone. I think all of you mentioned about high uninstallation rate for your app. Can you give some idea like what is the uninstallation rate? Like is it 20%, 50%?
You haven't answered yet.
I think it's around 50%, let's say.
Can we have the mic there?
Here. So again, the question is regarding installation. So both Ola and you mentioned ClearTrip that you're planning to use some kind of tools. Can you elaborate on that? What kind of solutions are available currently and what are you guys using? Because I don't know of any tool that we can use.
So there are a couple of Bangalore-based startups who are playing in this area. One is retention.ai and uninstall.io. So they kind of provide this uninstall information, and then I think one of them, like one or both, actually provide a way to retarget post uninstall as well. So we're still kind of exploring because we're not sure it's something that we want to do right now.
I have a question for Practo. Yeah. So you said you're moving towards a more companion-based application. Just wanted to understand, will it move to ideas like finding blood banks in and around you, or seeing the capacity of, seeing your medical history? What kind of a track is Practo actually moving towards?
Yeah, so those are a part of the roadmap. So there'll be much more things that we'll be working on. So primarily, if you look at how the entire healthcare industry is evolving, it is moving more towards specialities. And it's not about having a general practitioner in our neighborhood. That's the way, we actually consumed the healthcare when we were children. So when my daughter grows up, she's actually a part of generation which has not seen a VCR or a floppy drive. And when that generation reaches, the entire healthcare value chain will be present in Practo, including whatever you mentioned, across multiple countries.
My question is for all three of you. Can you suggest, we are currently using Mixpanel to track our whatever analytics, whatever happens inside the app. Are there any specific tools that you guys suggest that are not very well known but could be used for mobile app data tracking specifically? And for Ola, I recently read about your Ola shuttle, and I think that's a brilliant concept. Could you please talk about it for a while? It's a bit of a detour, but if you could. Thanks.
Okay, so we use Localytics for our tracking. And I think it works fairly well for us for the scale that we have right now. Localytic, and I think the other reason is basically they're present on all three platforms. So we have apps for like all three, Windows also, we have an app on Windows. So yeah, so that's what we use.
So you need to be very careful on what kind of SDKs you are integrating with your app, because it just loads up your app, and when Clean Master shows all the apps which needs to be uninstalled, your app will come on the top. So typically you will have to actually use two kinds of tools. One is actually attribution tools, which helps any app developer or marketer to identify what kind of media sources brings in app installs and gives you maximum monthly active users. Second is actually the analytics tool which is inside, which is similar to Localytics. So even you can use Crashlytics as well to measure the crashes extra. So basically you have to use an attribution tool, and second they use a behavior tool. These two tools will more or less capture most of the use cases you want to do.
I think we have time for 2 more questions.
Hi, my name is Rushil Gambhir.
I'll just finish his question
Oh, I'm
on
sorry,
Shuttle.
sorry.
So Shuttle, yeah, it's another product category that we'll be launching, and again, it's for a segment of customers who commutes daily. So this is another form of transport that's out there. So till now, we've been in the personal transport space. This is more in the shared transport space.
Hi, my name is Rushil, and I work for a venture capital fund called Aspada. I had a question for all three of you. So in terms of unlocking the remaining 1 billion, what strategies do you have besides overcoming this language barrier? And what type of merchants or what type of companies are you looking to partner with in order to get to these 1 billion?
So for us, the fact that we've expanded to 100 cities and there's a lot of potential out and beyond the top 10 cities, that's something which we are continuing to focus on. We really not looking beyond the 100 cities right now. We may go up to 200, but that's not reaching the many thousands of towns that we have. So having presence, having distribution, just like an FMCG firm would have it, I mean, for us that's important because that's the only way our service can get consumed. We are an offline business in that sense. We have to have our cars present at every single nook and corner of the locality. So, geographical expansion, localization of product, and the other, like I spoke about, Shuttle and other, there are transport or your product, whatever category you're in, gets consumed in multiple ways. There is one which is your core business, but you expand the definition of your core business, and bus and public transport is consumed by a much larger set of people. So having product lines that address that audience becomes the next wave for us.
Yeah, so theoretically we are present like already all over India. So one of the challenges that we are kind of looking forward to tackle is the language thing. And plus also kind of we are working on like what are the products in the travel space that this next billion users will require. So that's something that we are thinking of still. But for example, like in terms of like intercity travel, we already have trains and buses that can be booked on our app. So yeah, so some products are there, but we are still exploring what else needs to be done.
For us, the 1 billion is out there. That's correct, but we need to get our supply side right. As Sulekshan said, we have a supply side of doctors. We don't launch in any city until and unless we actually list 98% of the doctors who are out there. So we have got a team which goes to each and every city that we launch, either in India or globally, go to each nook and corner and list down all the clinics and all the doctors out there. So we will actually continue going through our planned expansion phase. We will eventually reach 1 billion, but by giving the right kind of experience. We are actually here to create value and not for valuation. So our investors have shown a lot of confidence in that, and all of them are bought in as well. So we will actually launch only once we actually make the supply side correct in most of the cities that we'll be launching.
Hi. My question is towards Practo. So you were mentioning apart from Facebook ads and Google ads, there was some app partnership which drive the user base. Can you suggest few?
so at one time we used to work with 18 partners who were helping us to drive installs. So what we figured out is that, so we actually continue to work now with almost like 5 or 6 partners only. So what we figured out was that the partners who came us initially and told us that we will actually give you, say 4,000 installs or this much active users, they have just gone away. The people who have actually still continue remaining working with us are the people who started with 300 installs with a certain amount of quality, then 400 installs, then 500 installs, like that. So whenever you go for a paid distribution roadmap, you need to actually ensure that you are working with partners who understand your quality parameters. So what we have done is that we have actually divided our partners into 3. So there is actually bronze level, silver level, and then preferred partner level. So everybody start working with us at the bronze level. Once they achieve that quality parameters, they will actually reach silver level, and then finally they become preferred partners. So we continue actually working with preferred partners. So there are a lot of companies based in Germany who are very successful in driving installs in India, and they do better than a lot of Indian companies as well. So we can actually connect offline, and I'll be able to provide some of the names and references.
Any more questions?
Hi, I'm Avinash. So I think each of you talked highly about the organic installs, that it sort of contributes a fair amount to the app installs. So my question is, how do you increase that? Any specific sort of product iterations or marketing messages that you might have tried which worked out for you? Any use cases that you may share?
So there's no like single answer to that, obviously. So for us, what has worked is the mobile site has worked, and we use deep links everywhere. So we've ensured that, like, depending on the device where you're accessing, depending on whether you have the app or don't have the app, we take you to the appropriate page. So if it's, for example, offer communication, if you're on the desktop, you'll be taken to the desktop site, the offer page. If you're on a mobile device and you have the app installed, you'll go right into the app. If you don't have the app, you'll go to the store, and once you install, you go into the app to that page. So deferred deep links. So that's something that has worked very well for us. And the second thing is basically, as I said, like building the product with distribution built right in. So when you're thinking of adding a new feature to the product, like we think of how do you distribute that? How do you reach the users you need to reach for that feature? So that's one thing, that's pretty much it, and we kind of used, and yeah.
So encouraging sharing and word of mouth, so in the end that's what drives a lot of your, and if you have a great product and an experience, then you want to give users the ability to share that experience, and preferably on a one-to-one basis, not a broadcast, like put it on your wall or a Twitter feed. So with WhatsApp and messenger services having proliferated the way they have, just being able to share it on a one-on-one basis, a great experience, and making sure the queue is right there in the product really helps increase your organics as well.
So the timing, so I agree with both of them. We also work along the same lines. We use our mobile website, we use our desktop website, we use emails. But one of the things that we found which was working wonderfully well was the time at which you are asking a user to share at what point of the customer experience. So we have found that asking somebody to rate our app immediately after the doctor appointment, after he gives a review, etc. So we run a lot of experiments all throughout. So if you want to increase your organic percentage, if it is currently at 25%, you have to first see how you will actually make it 30%, then make it 40%. That's the way it works. If you actually try too lofty objectives, then it always, bites back. So make sure that you are having well set goals each month on reaching organic, reach those goals and then take it forward. There are a lot of opportunities to drive organic downloads, including deep links, including partnership with other apps. So all those opportunities can actually work, provided the timing is correct.
Okay, my question is for all three of you. How do you handle transactional SMS delivery? Because I happen to use a service called Unicell, and in the SMS logs, there's either delivered, not delivered, or something called a blacklist. So if you send me a transactional SMS, I won't get that, that SMS.
Can you repeat the question, please?
How do you handle transactional SMS delivery? I happen to use a service called Unicell. And if I send you a verification code, and if you're on something called a blacklist, you will not get that SMS. Because I'm in the blacklist because I marked the Yogari SMS as spam. So Unicell, which is supposed to send me that SMS, can't send that SMS to me. They put the blame on Aircell. So how do you handle such a situation?
I think thankfully we haven't had to face that situation so far, because our transactional SMSs are sent after post booking, and those SMSs, like we also send an email with the booking voucher e-ticket, and I think that's pretty much what most people use. In terms of OTP, most of the, like as the app, we don't have any hook where a user needs to provide an OTP yet. It's all in the payment step. So that's something we haven't like faced a problem with so far.
Great. Thank you so much, Sudarshan, Suman, and Lisa for all the insights. I'm sure people will really benefit out of this thing. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Suman. Thanks, Sudarshan.
Okay, coming.
And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the close of this session. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope we're able to put into perspective the engagement aspect of mobile and its various facets. We look forward to more such opportunities and progressive association. We now have a tea break till 4:30, and we request all of you to gather at the main hall, that's Hall 1, for the closing remarks. Thank you.